the reason for that is that they haven't yet done a great job of defining what it actually means to their business to be sustainable, and what it actually means to their business. And the term sustainability has become cliche. I'll use the term business case for sustainability, which has become just as cliche. But frankly, it shouldn't be cliche because people aren't doing that great of a job at implementing it yet. And people aren't doing that great of a job yet at really answering those primary questions for themselves of why should I care about sustainability within my organization, whatever my organization happens to be. So, at Starbucks, I think there's no question that sustainability permeates our company, but and that's the external view of the company, and that's absolutely what happens internally. But if I could share a quick story, and sorry for being redundant, Kevin and I were just on a panel about a week and a half ago, and I'm going to share the same damn story I shared before. But I'll say the same thing back. It's funny, I was talking to John earlier, and he says, "You're not going to share anything new, are you?" I appreciate that, John. But before Starbucks, I was at Yellowstone National Park, and I was working for a company called Santerra that ran all the park operations out there. Fantastic job. And I actually was one of the first, or actually I did manage the first LEED certified project in the state of Montana and in the national park system. And apparently Starbucks thought that made me an expert in LEED and green buildings, so they hired me on 7 years ago in Seattle here to really help the company start up its green building program. And when I interviewed with the company, and all the things I'd read about Starbucks was sustainability is part of our DNA, social responsibility is part of our DNA. This permeates everything we do. It's part of our lexicon. It's what we do. And you heard about all these emotional connections that all of our employees had around sustainability, around being an ethical company, about doing the right thing. And these are all absolutely true. And so when my boss, Ben Packard, and I started building this program around green building and trying to deploy green building within the company, that was the language I used. And that was how I pitched this program internally to the different business units of Starbucks, was saying, hey, it's part of our DNA, it's the right thing to do, which, stop saying it's the right thing to do, because that's not a business driver, but we can talk about that later. But I was using all this phraseology that I had heard during my interview process and heard about the company, and pitching what I thought made an was the business into the company. And frankly, the feedback I got from the different business units was either A, this is cool, but I have 20 priorities and you're number 21, so I'll get around to it. Or frankly, just saying, it's just not an issue for me, and I'm not going to bother with this. And what we discovered was that there was nothing wrong with the program itself, but we took the program back and we reset the language. And we repitched it, and I hate to use a public relations term on sustainability, but we repitched it to the company. And I went to the store operations team at Starbucks and said, are you interested in reducing the operating cost of your store by 10%? Of course. I never even used the word green building, but I said, oh, by the way, it's green building. I went to our HR team and I said, are you interested in recruiting better people, retaining those people, having a healthier work environment for those people to work in? Of course they were. And I said, oh, by the way, it's green building. And I went to all these different teams within the company and used the language that they use to measure their success as opposed to the language of sustainability. And frankly, what we saw was a complete embracement, completely embracing this sustainability initiative and this green building initiative within the company. The program itself wasn't any different, but I just spoke the language of the business. And that's really what I've been trying to evangelize now when I speak to different businesses and I speak to other groups, and frankly internally with our company as well, is we can almost use the term sustainability as a secondary measure, but really speak the terms of business first. And when you're pitching, again, I'll use that word, when you're pitching sustainability internally or externally to the company, if you use the language of business that they understand, and if you use the language they measure themselves by, we have a much better opportunity for success moving forward. So, the long story short is Starbucks made a commitment a year and a half ago that every store we build in the world is going to be LEED certified. No other company has ever made a commitment to that scale, and the company's put all of our weight behind it, and we're measuring our success by those type of programs. And some of the ancillary effects, and I'll just tick off a few of the things that we call the business case for sustainability. Some of the ancillary effects of our green building program are that we've finally been able to recruit some world-class designers to our company and keep them around. Because if you're all familiar with Starbucks 10 years ago, we were on a growth spurt, to say the least. And from a store design perspective, we were really punching out cookie cutter stores as fast as we could. And we brought in these amazing designers into our company and their job was essentially to rearrange furniture and artwork within a confined space, and they were getting bored out of their skulls. So we couldn't keep people on board within the company, and they were walking up the door as fast as we could bring them in. When we switched to this green building initiative and switched to this new design initiative, now we are attracting for world-class designers within the company. So that's a business case. That's a recruitment retention business case. And that recruitment and retention business case spreads way outside our design team to all of our employees. One of the reasons that Starbucks turnover rate is less than half of the retail industry, we serve our employees every year to ask them why they stick around. And we're very blunt about it. We say, why do you stick around with the company? One of the reasons they stick around is because of our sustainability initiatives. And they say that point blank. I value this company, and this company reflects my values, so I choose to stay with this company. It doesn't hurt that we also offer healthcare part-time employees, but there's some great things we do as an ethical company that really help people stick around. And again, there's money associated with that. That's a business case. That's a driver for our HR department. That really, you don't even have to use the word sustainability if you don't want it. We also look at what we call brand love. We don't even use the term brand loyalty. We use the term brand love because the Starbucks brand creates this emotional response. Sometimes not always positive, but generally very positive for the company. We have seen and tracked that our sustainability initiatives create brand love for the company. It also creates our ability to retain or to attract kids in college or kids coming out of college to be lifetime brand advocates of Starbucks. And that's our target audience is people who want to create that lifetime customer of Starbucks for that age group. And again, what we've seen year after year after year is if we can align with the values of a consumer that's more and more value-driven, there's money associated with that. Going down the list, I mean, we also look at our sustainability initiatives as a hedge against future regulation. And what we've really seen in a number of communities now is the ability and the invitation that's sent out to Starbucks from local regulators to be at the table during the development of regulatory processes and regulations that impact our company every day. And this is a huge shift from the traditional business model where generally businesses are reactive to regulations. We wait to see what's coming through the pipeline. We circle the wagon, we bring in our associations, we do all the right work, and then we oppose it. And often what comes out of the pipeline is something that's difficult to live with, especially for a multinational company that operates pretty much in every city around the world. A local regulation that's a one-off or a differentiator from other cities nearby makes it really difficult to operate a global business. One of the jobs I work on is recycling in the company too, and it's amazing to see that what we can recycle here in Seattle is completely different than what we can recycle across the Lake Washington and Bellevue. And that really has nothing to do with infrastructure. It has to do with policy, it has to do with motivation, it has to do with rates, all these different things. But that makes it really confusing for our customers, and it makes it really difficult for a company like ours to operate. Now spread that out over the entire U.S. or spread that out over the entire world. Those sorts of local complexities really cost the company a lot of money. And if we can get ahead of the game and be part of that conversation, it really helps us proactively engage those issues. And again, sustainability has put us at the table, and our place in sustainability has put us at the table. I'm not going to continue to go down the list, but my takeaway really is that you all need to be asking yourself, why should I really give a damn about sustainability within my business, within my organization, and really define, I think, the business drivers that drive you to sustainability, and use the language of business when you try to promote those, pitch those, incorporate those into your business structure, because that will give you the scalability. Our next big step as a company, and one we've had a bit of success doing so far, is actually incorporating sustainability metrics into people's performance goals so that they're bonused by their sustainability metrics. And I've made some penetration within Starbucks, not complete penetration yet, to be completely transparent. But what we've seen are that I think even those ardent skeptics become tree huggers when it's part of their bonus. And it feels crass, but that's the way business works, and that's the way people work, and that's the language you understand. And what I've seen, again, where we've been able to incorporate that is people start to pay attention to their everyday business workings and how that impacts, their sustainability footprint, how that impacts their footprint as a company, and they become more expert overnight in those areas. So there's a lot of tools you can use, but I guess my one takeaway of this is make sure you're speaking the language of business and make sure you're incorporating the language of business into the decisions you make. I see myself now not necessarily as the green guy at Starbucks, but I see myself as a service provider to the business to help them meet their goals, as opposed to me trying to get them to meet my goals. I'll stop there. Yeah, thanks.
So let's go to Microsoft.
Okay. Well,
I can take